The first time Emily kissed Claire, it wasn't supposed to mean anything. At least, that's what Emily told herself right before her heart betrayed her, and didn't stop racing for 3 days straight. The mansion was quiet that night, unnervingly so. Outside, Los Angeles glittered with its usual decadence, but inside the grand Silver Lake estate, only the echo of their laughter filled the marble hallways. Emily had come to spend the weekend with Claire, her best friend since college, now a successful fashion photographer with a taste for expensive wine and reckless honesty. "Come on, Em," Claire had said earlier, spinning around in her silk robe as they danced barefoot in the living room. "You can't spend your whole life being afraid to feel something real." Emily rolled her eyes, pretending to sip her wine instead of thinking about how stunning Claire looked under the chandelier light. "And you can't spend yours chasing people who never stay." The jab was playful. The silence after it wasn't. They both froze, tension humming like electricity in the air. Claire looked away first, biting her lip, her usual smirk faltering. "Maybe I wouldn't have to chase if someone I cared about actually looked back at me," she murmured. Emily laughed too loudly. "That's not fair. Neither is pretending you don't feel anything." Those words lingered. They were sharp, but not cruel like Claire always was, slicing straight through Emily's defenses with that impossible mix of softness and fire. Later that night, when the rain started to fall and the storm wrapped the mansion in its thunderous arms, Emily found herself unable to sleep. She padded downstairs barefoot and found Claire sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the city lights through the rain-streaked windows. "You're awake too," Emily said quietly. Claire smiled without turning around. "Couldn't sleep. Too many ghosts in this house." "Ghosts?" Claire shrugged. "Memories, maybe. People I tried to love." Emily sat down beside her, close enough to feel the warmth of her skin under the blanket. "You think love is something you can try?" Claire finally looked at her. "What else is there to do with it?" It was stupid, reckless, beautiful. Emily didn't know why she leaned in, or why Claire didn't pull away. Maybe it was the wine, maybe it was years of tension finally breaking like a dam. But when their lips met, it was as if the whole mansion exhaled every memory, every ghost, every denial, melting into that one breathless moment. The kiss wasn't planned, wasn't careful. It was messy, trembling, filled with confusion and a kind of hunger that had nothing to do with lust and everything to do with truth. When Emily finally pulled away, she whispered, "We can't do this." Claire smiled sadly. "Then why does it feel like we already did?" The morning after was unbearable. Sunlight streamed through the massive windows, illuminating every corner of the marble kitchen as if mocking them both. Emily tried to act normal, making coffee, checking her phone, pretending her lips didn't still burn from the night before. Claire sauntered in, wearing one of Emily's old college t-shirts, looking devastatingly casual. "Morning," she said, voice hoarse. Emily didn't look up. "Morning. Sleep?" "Barely." Claire chuckled, leaning against the counter. "I figured." The silence stretched again. It wasn't comfortable anymore. Emily's hand shook as she poured coffee. "Look, about last night." "Don't," Claire interrupted. "Please don't ruin it with words." "I have to. You know I'm seeing someone." Claire's expression froze, though her eyes betrayed the flicker of hurt. "Ryan," she said flatly. "The guy who treats you like you're a checkbox on his 5-year plan. That's not fair. Neither is kissing your best friend and pretending it didn't mean anything." Emily's throat tightened. "You started it." Claire gave a hollow laugh. "You finished it." The air between them thickened with all the things they weren't brave enough to say. After a moment, Claire turned away. "You know, I used to think being honest was the hardest thing. But turns out watching someone lie to themselves hurts more." Emily wanted to scream, to say it wasn't that simple, that she wasn't ready to destroy everything just because of one night. But she didn't. She couldn't. So she left. 3 months passed. Emily tried to rebuild her life, her safe, structured, emotionless life. She went to work, smiled at Ryan, pretended her world hadn't split in half inside that mansion. But at night, when everything went quiet, she could still feel the taste of rain and wine and Claire's trembling breath against her lips. One day a letter arrived. No name, no return address. Just a single line written in Claire's messy handwriting. "The ghosts are gone. Come see what's left." Emily didn't think. She drove. The mansion looked different now, quieter, emptier. Claire stood at the door, barefoot, hair pulled up, wearing that same t-shirt Emily had left behind. "You came," Claire said softly. "I didn't know if I should." "Neither did I." For a long moment they just stared at each other, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between them. Then Claire whispered, "I sold the house." "What? Why?" Claire smiled faintly. "Because I realized I was holding on to memories instead of making new ones." She took a slow step closer. "Maybe we could fix that." Emily felt her chest tighten. "Claire." "Don't say no yet," Claire breathed. "Just stay for a while." Emily hesitated, but as the sun set behind the mansion, spilling gold across the walls, she realized something. Love wasn't about timing or logic. It was about truth. And for once she wanted to stop running from it. So she stepped inside. And this time she didn't look back. The sound of the door closing behind her echoed through the empty mansion like a sigh from the past. Emily stood still for a long time, letting the quiet wrap around her. Everything looked the same: the grand staircase, the scent of lavender candles, the sunlight melting across the marble floors, but everything felt different. Claire watched her from the hallway, barefoot, hands tucked into the pockets of her loose linen pants. "You're still the same," she said softly. Emily smiled faintly. "You always say that when you don't know what else to say." Claire's lips twitched. "Maybe I say it because it's true." Silence again. It had always been their language, the in-between spaces, the pauses where truth lived. "Show me," Emily finally said. "What's left of this place?" Claire nodded and led her through the mansion. The walls that once held glamorous photographs of celebrities now displayed something else: portraits. Women. Real women. Vulnerable, messy, beautiful in their imperfections. Emily stopped in front of one. A woman sitting by a window, eyes closed, light touching her face like forgiveness. "You took these," Emily said quietly. Claire nodded. "After you left, I couldn't photograph anyone else." "Not really. So I started taking portraits of the people I met who reminded me of you." Emily turned to her, startled. "Reminded you how?" Claire's voice was barely a whisper. "Of how it feels to want someone you shouldn't." The air between them tightened, sharp and trembling. Emily looked away first, pretending to study another frame. "Why did you invite me here?" she asked. Claire hesitated. "Because I'm leaving. And I didn't want the last thing between us to be silence." Emily's stomach sank. "Leaving where?" "New York. I got offered a residency there. Art collective. 6 months. 6 months. Emily's voice cracked slightly. "That's big." Claire shrugged, but her eyes glimmered with something fragile. "It's something new. Maybe I need that." Emily didn't know what to say. She wanted to be supportive, to smile and tell her she deserved it, but her chest ached in a way that felt dangerously close to jealousy. "I'm happy for you," she managed. Claire smiled faintly. "You don't sound happy." Emily opened her mouth, then closed it. Because what could she say? "I'm proud of you, but the thought of you leaving feels like losing you all over again." That night they had dinner together. It was simple pasta, wine, candles flickering across the kitchen counter. It felt too normal, too domestic, as if they had been living like this all along. Claire poured another glass of wine and leaned against the counter. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if we hadn't stopped that night?" Emily froze. The question sliced through the soft rhythm of the evening like glass. "Claire." "No, really." Claire pressed gently, her voice low. "Do you ever think about it?" Emily stared at her, heart pounding. "Every day." Claire's hand trembled around her glass. "Then why didn't you come back?" "Because I didn't think I could have you and keep my life intact. And now." Emily looked down at her hands. "Now I'm not sure I have a life at all without you in it." The confession hung there, raw and heavy. Claire blinked, eyes glistening. "You don't mean that." "I do," Emily said firmly. "I just didn't know how to say it before." For a moment Claire looked like she might cry. But instead she laughed, a shaky, broken laugh. "You have the worst timing, you know that?" Emily smiled weakly. "You always said I did." Then Claire did something she hadn't done in months. She reached out and took Emily's hand. Her touch was gentle but sure, her thumb tracing slow circles against Emily's palm. "Come with me," Claire whispered. Emily blinked. "What?" "To New York." Just for a week. You don't have to stay forever. I don't want to start over without you seeing what it could be like. Emily stared at her, every rational part of her screaming no. She had work, commitments, a boyfriend who still thought she was happy. But the truth was, none of those things made her heart beat the way Claire's touch did. Okay, Emily whispered. I'll come. Claire smiled softly, relief flooding her face. Then let's start over. They flew to New York 2 weeks later. The city greeted them with chaos, honking taxis, endless skyscrapers, 1,000 strangers with somewhere to be. Claire's new studio was a small loft in Brooklyn, full of light and clutter. It smelled like coffee and paint and possibility. Emily loved it instantly. They spent days exploring late breakfasts at small cafes, wandering through art galleries, talking about everything and nothing. For the first time in years, Emily felt alive. One evening, as the city lights flickered on outside the loft windows, Claire set up her camera. Sit, she said softly. Emily frowned. You're photographing me? Claire smiled. I've been photographing you since the day I met you. I just never told you. Emily sat uncertain, as Claire adjusted the lighting. You're serious? Completely. Claire looked at her through the lens. Look at me. Emily did. Now forget the camera. She tried. But when Claire's gaze met hers through the viewfinder, the world seemed to narrow down to that one invisible line between them, a line that had always been there, taut and shimmering. Breathe, Claire whispered. Emily exhaled, and something in her broke open. When Claire finally lowered the camera, she didn't move. She just stared, eyes filled with something too tender to name. You look like you're home, she said softly. Emily laughed weakly. Maybe because I am. And then before she could stop herself, she leaned in. The kiss this time was different, slower, deeper, weighted with everything they hadn't said. It wasn't born of confusion or loneliness, but of choice. When they finally pulled apart, Claire whispered, Does this mean you're staying? Emily smiled, tears in her eyes. It means I'm done running. But love, as they soon learned, wasn't that simple. 2 weeks into their quiet happiness, Ryan showed up. He appeared at the studio door like a storm in a pressed suit, eyes full of confusion and betrayal. Emily. Claire froze, palette knife in hand. Emily went pale. Ryan, what are you doing here? I came to surprise you, he said, voice tight. But I guess I'm the one surprised. He glanced around the paint-streaked floor, the camera setup, the 2 coffee mugs side by side. His jaw tightened. So it's true. Emily tried to speak. Ryan, please, how long? He snapped. Claire stood up straight, stepping forward, calm but cold. You should go. Ryan glared at her. This is between me and her. No, Claire said quietly. This has always been between her and herself. Ryan turned back to Emily, hurt flickering behind his anger. I thought I knew you. Emily's voice trembled. So did I. He shook his head and walked out, slamming the door behind him. The sound echoed like thunder. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Finally, Claire whispered, Are you okay? Emily's hand shook. I don't know. But for the first time, I think I'm honest. Claire smiled sadly. That's a start. That night they didn't talk. They just lay together in silence, the hum of the city outside their window. Emily rested her head on Claire's chest, listening to the steady rhythm of her heartbeat, a sound that felt like safety, like truth. But somewhere deep down, fear still lingered. Because love wasn't the end of their story. It was the beginning of something fragile, something they would have to fight for. And Emily wasn't sure if the world was ready for that. Still, as Claire's hand slid into hers, fingers intertwining with quiet certainty, Emily realized something simple and terrifying and beautiful. Maybe it didn't matter if the world was ready. They were. Rain had a way of finding them. It fell softly against the loft windows that morning, painting the city in silver and gray. Emily stood by the window, watching droplets race down the glass while clutching a cup of coffee she'd forgotten to drink. Claire was still asleep, tangled in sheets that smelled faintly of paint, lavender, and something wholly hers. For once, Emily felt peace. The kind of peace that didn't come from pretending everything was fine, but from finally stopping the lie. Yet peace she knew never lasted long. Her phone buzzed on the table, messages, emails, missed calls. The world she'd run away from was knocking again. She didn't want to answer. But she did. The first message was from her boss. We need to talk about your resignation. Are you sure about this? The next one was from her sister. Mom saw the photos. Call me. Photos. Her stomach dropped. She opened Instagram, and there they were, a dozen photos from Claire's latest exhibit, The Women We Choose to Be. Portraits of women who had found themselves again after loss. Among them, one unmistakable picture of Emily. It wasn't explicit. She wasn't naked, wasn't even looking at the camera. But her expression, raw, open, utterly unguarded, said everything. And in the caption, Claire had written, "This one taught me what it means to stay." Claire woke to the sound of Emily pacing. "Morning," she mumbled, stretching lazily. But when she saw Emily's face, she sat up instantly. "What's wrong?" Emily turned the phone toward her. "You posted it." Claire blinked. "Eyes. You said I could use the portraits." "I didn't know you'd use that one." Claire stood, wrapping the blanket around herself. "Emily, it's beautiful. It's real. It's us," Emily snapped. "Do you know what people are saying?" Claire hesitated. "I don't care what they're saying." "Well, I do." Emily's voice cracked. "My family's calling, my office is in chaos, Ryan probably saw it." "Ryan doesn't matter." Emily turned away. "He does. They all do. My life doesn't exist in a vacuum, Claire." Claire's voice softened. "And what about our life? Does that exist anywhere but behind closed doors?" The words landed like a blow. Emily closed her eyes. "You don't understand," she whispered. "You've always been brave. You don't care if people stare. But I do. I'm not you." Claire took a step forward, her voice trembling now. "And I never asked you to be me. I just wanted you to stop hiding." Emily shook her head, tears forming. "I need time." "Time," Claire repeated hollowly. "I gave you time, Emily. 2 years of pretending we were nothing more than best friends. Then 6 months apart. Then another month of pretending New York was temporary. How much more time do you need before you let yourself be happy?" Emily didn't answer. Claire swallowed hard, her voice breaking. "If you walk away again, I won't stop you. But please don't tell me it's because of fear." Emily turned toward her, then eyes glistening, voice shaking. "You don't get it. Fear is all I have left." And before Claire could speak, Emily grabbed her coat and walked out into the rain. The next week was a blur. Emily checked into a small hotel near Central Park, telling herself she just needed space. But space didn't make the ache smaller. Every corner of the city reminded her of Claire, the smell of coffee, the laughter of strangers, the way rain hit the pavement. Meanwhile, the photos spread online. They weren't scandalous, not really. But people talked. Articles appeared on art blogs, social media posts dissecting Claire's work. Is this portrait of her rumored muse? The artist blurs the line between professional and personal. Claire refused interviews. She stayed silent. And that silence somehow hurt Emily more than anything. 3 days later, Emily got a call from an unfamiliar number. "Hello, Miss Taylor," a warm voice said. "This is Laura Chun from the New York Modern Art Review. We're writing an article about Claire Morgan's exhibit. She said you might be willing to share your perspective." Emily froze. "She said that?" "Yes," Laura said cheerfully. "She mentioned you were the emotional heart of the collection." Emily's throat tightened. "I can't comment." She hung up before her voice could break. That night, Emily returned to the mansion, not the real one in Los Angeles, but the one in her memories. She dreamt of the echoing halls, the rain on the glass, the first kiss that ruined everything and saved her all at once. When she woke, the pillow was damp with tears. A week later, she went to the exhibit. It wasn't planned. She just found herself walking there, pulled by something she didn't have words for. The gallery was crowded, photographers, critics, strangers whispering over champagne. And everywhere, Claire's work. Light, emotion, humanity. Emily wandered through the portraits until she reached the final room. And there in the center hung a massive printer. Not the one from Instagram. A new one. In this portrait, Emily stood in front of a window, half turned toward the light. Her eyes were open this time, fierce and calm and heartbreakingly alive. The caption read, "Courage looks different on everyone." Emily's breath hitched. "You came," a voice murmured behind her. She turned. Claire stood there dressed simply in black, hair tied back, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. "I didn't think you'd want to see me," Claire said softly. "I didn't," Emily admitted. "But then I saw this." She gestured to the portrait. "You could have used something prettier. Something safe." Claire smiled faintly. "I didn't want pretty. I wanted truth." Emily's eyes filled. "You always do." They stood there in silence, the crowd fading around them. Finally, Emily whispered, "You were right. I was hiding." Claire's lips parted, but she didn't speak. Emily stepped closer. "When that photo went online, I panicked. I thought people would see something shameful. But the truth is, it was the first time I saw myself without shame." Tears shimmered in Claire's eyes. "Emily, I love you," Emily said simply. "I don't care who knows. I don't care what I lose. I just don't want to lose you again." Claire let out a trembling breath. "You have no idea how long I've waited to hear that." Emily smiled through tears, then stopped waiting. And this time when they kissed, the room erupted into a hush, not scandal, not shock but awe. Two women, unapologetically in love, standing beneath a portrait that had once been their secret. After the exhibit closed, the world kept talking. Some praised, some criticized, some whispered. But neither of them cared anymore. They moved into a small apartment in the West Village, too small, too noisy, too full of life. They cooked together, fought over laundry, danced barefoot to old records. Emily took a new job, freelance photography, something she'd always dreamed of but never dared to chase. Claire continued her art, more fearless than ever. And sometimes, when the rain returned, they'd sit by the window and laugh about how it all began, a kiss that wasn't supposed to mean anything. Months later, Emily found herself standing in front of a class of photography students. Guest lecturer title she never imagined having. She showed them one of her favorite shots. A photo Claire had taken of her laughing, head thrown back, rain pouring outside. "This," she told them, "is what love looks like when you stop hiding." A student raised a hand. "Did you ever regret it? Leaving everything behind?" Emily smiled. "No, because I didn't lose anything that mattered. I just stopped pretending I didn't already have everything." That night, she came home to find Claire asleep on the couch, paintbrush still in her hand, a smear of blue across her cheek. Emily laughed softly, kneeling beside her. On the coffee table sat a half-finished canvas, a sunlit room, two women holding hands, and beneath it, scrawled in Claire's handwriting, "In the mansion of secrets we found truth." Emily touched the wet paint, heart full. She whispered, "We did." And for the first time in her life, she felt completely, beautifully seen. Outside, the city hummed with life. Inside, two women slept, their hands still intertwined, the rain whispering softly against the glass. The world would keep spinning, judging, changing, but in that small apartment, in that quiet moment, love didn't need to fight anymore. It had already won. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.